Felons of Reddit, what is something you wish you knew when you were released? Serious. My cousin got out a year ago after 11 years in prison in Texas. He said the best thing to do is find a great support system and to further your education. He took classes while in prison and is planning to graduate in August. He says it's the best decision he has made because he did internships through the school and lined up a job that way. He feels if he didn't have the internship experience he would never have been hired in a traditional manner due to his time in prison. The bottom line is doors are going to be closed in your face. Nobody will necessarily believe you are changed. You always have to take a no or a closed door with a grain of salt. Every no is closer to a yes. I served over 14 years. I was fortunate to obtain serious computer networking skills while incarcerated. Upon release, however, I could not obtain employment. I offered my skills for free. I would have worked for free for as long as it took. It wasn't because I didn't know my worth. It because I over-understood it. Long story short, I opened my own shop because I had no other choice. I have been open almost 2 years. I now make over 6 figures and have been featured in my local paper. If there is a will, there is a way. You're a true success story. Dude, congratulations on turning your life around. Short version. Have a job, get a hobby that's free or cheap, and don't hang out with the people that put you in the situation that landed you in prison. I will update when not on mobile. Source: I am a felon. Spent a little over 2 years in. +1 for not hanging out with the people that got you in the situation. Your old friends haven't changed their habits since you've been locked up, and now that you've got a mark on your record, it's several times easier to get into more trouble for small things. My friend is going to be released in 6 months, and she's nervous about re-entering society, finding a job and trying to get back to normal. We've been pen pals during her incarceration, and I often will print off AskReddit threads for her to read, and she asked if I could ask a few questions on her behalf. What advice or knowledge would have made a big difference during your transition? What would you tell yourself? As an ex-felon, you are in the target group for the work opportunity tax credit. That means that if a company hires you within a year of your release, completes the certification application paperwork within 28 days of hiring you, and you work at least 400 hours and earn at least $6,000 in gross wages, the company can a $2. 400.00 tax credit against federal tax liability. Make sure to let a prospective employer know you are WOTC eligible. Hiring you can save them $2,400. Source: not an ex-felon, but knows about such things. Also, though the work opportunity tax credit law remains to be reauthorized, it is expected to be for 2014 to 2015. I hire people. This is a cool bonus, but I'm not sure the promise of $2,400 would be enough to change my mind if I'm still worried about the person. Now, if I'm convinced they won't re-offend, then it's a nice little bonus. About as much money as my group is supposed to bring in a few hours of doing business. Turn that corner, start making moves. I went to tech school, got a degree, adopted a dog, started a garden. I brew beer and make cheese. It is much better than committing home invasions and stealing cars. Find something productive to do with your time. Something fulfilling too. Try to identify why you were the way you were, and address the root cause of your pain. Exercise and a good diet is important, especially if you had substance abuse issues like I did. Realize the deck is stacked against you. They have you on paper, and they can yank your parole for almost no reason. So be as good as you can. I had a buddy get violated over a BB gun. He went back to the joint for an extra 8 months for a daisy. Most people don't give a crap when I tell them what I used to be. Finding a job isn't impossible. I work for a software company in Manhattan. I am just another dude in Oxford cloth who rides the A train. There is nothing more important than finding a stable job, no matter how much it sucks. I was lucky enough to just get probation on a felony charge, and a year in, I hadn't followed my fee schedule and hadn't started my DA classes because I couldn't afford it. 1 month I was happy that I'd made it a year without screwing up. The next month I was back in court facing 3 violations and a revocation, but narrowly avoided going back to jail. Lost the possibility to have my charge reduced to a misdemeanor, and now, 4 years after conviction, I'm back to paying a lawyer ridiculous amounts of money to try to have it expunged because I still can't find a good job. Heck, I can't really find any job these days. All the temp agencies tell me that all their contracts have changed their hiring policies, and most have gone to a strict no felony policy, even for temps. NK America used to hire felons all the time. It was a great place to work for someone with a charge. Now they check your record 10 years back and won't hire you for any felony charge. TL. DR. Steady work. Pay your crap. If it's your first offense, it's not the end of your life. Screw up again. It pretty much is. Check out the oil field man. It's hard work but pays well and records are overlooked for hard workers who stay clean. I wish I knew a way to pay $20,000 in restitution without breaking the law again. It's crazy they expect you to start making payments right when you get out, even though I had a job the second week after my release, not making a lot obviously, and still managed to pay for basic living expenses. I'm accumulating more and more credit card debt just trying to stay afloat. I'm late to the party, but here's my 2 cents. If you were convicted of drugs, take a class on drug addiction. Needs to be state approved. It doesn't matter if you are addicted or not. There have been several times that this just randomly popped up and I was so glad I had done it. For example, if you apply for a Pell Grant, you can get it only if you have completed a course on addiction. Go to school. You can start with community college to get your foot in the door at a university. Depending on your conviction, you may be eligible for government assistance. If you aren't working, volunteer. I know my experience is unique, but I have had volunteer work count towards actual work experience. Plus, people have a chance to get to know me as a person. I was charged with possession of crystal M, but still landed a job in a chemical plant. Worked there for 3 years because I knew people. Before you pay a rental application fee, ask what their policy is on background checks. I had to spend a few $100 before figuring out that 90% of the places where I live will not allow felons. Lastly, if you can afford it, talk to a therapist. It might be unique for me, but this has really helped me with depression, anxiety, and kept me away from using in hopes of easing pain. It's also helped me tons with self-worth issues. A couple things. I wish I would have known that my vocational certifications, I have 2 of them, one in computer technology and one in business management, were going to be completely useless on a job application. Seriously, nobody cares. Degree? No? Then frick you. And nobody cares that you did your time. There is no fresh start, it never goes away. I had a woman tell me a while back that she couldn't believe I was so nonchalant about my felony conviction. I was trying to get a license to sell insurance. Had a job lined up and everything. Nope. Not gonna happen unless you got a lawyer and about 18 months to spare. For the record, my felony was in 1994. It was 2008 when that woman told me that when people need to find a reason to not like you, it's there for the rest of your life. I wish I would have known that, but it's probably better that I didn't. As an ex-felon myself, I shall give you a quick rundown on what your friend can expect fresh out of jail prison. Some background. I did a little under a year in county jail. First thing first, probation. You can expect to be on supervised probation. This means drug test every week. Fail one and you're back in the clink. Probation officers are looking for a reason to send people back. One rule of thumb when it comes to making that visit with your probation officer: get there early, as I have seen people's probation revoked because they were late. Alcohol, even though it is legal, can and will get your probation revoked if it shows up on a drug screen. Drugs, just don't do them. You will be tested and you will fail and you will end up back in jail for the remainder of your sentence. This is the part I wish people would have told me. You will not find a decent job at first. To be honest with you, no one wants to hire a felon, and the places that do pay you in cash and treat you like crap, they know you're a felon and they know no one else will hire you, so they have you by the balls and they will exploit that till either you quit or they fire you. Go back to school and graduate. Nothing convinces an employer better showing them your college degree. It shows potential employers that maybe it really was just a mistake on your part and you learned the lesson of your bad decisions and continued to try and do something positive in your life. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. If your friend is released and continues to hang out with and do the things they were doing before they got arrested, they will get arrested again. I guarantee it. Depending on the type of felony it is, it may take up to 10 years or longer for the felony not to show up on a background check. This is the worst part of being a felon. You committed the crime, did the time, which means you have paid your debt back to society. Wrong, that felony will haunt you. Every job you apply for, your future employer will know you're a felon. But the absolute hardest part of being a free felon is not considering yourself worthless. Get ready to face a barrage of disappointment and refusals. As a matter of fact, being told no will become so second nature to you that you better learn to ask more than once. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Right around year 9-10 I was finally able to find a decent job which I was able to use my skills in IT. And after on the job for less than a year I was promoted twice and am currently sitting in a leadership position within the first company that hired me. I really enjoyed your advice. I am a counselor working at a transitional facility and I feel for all of my clients who have completed their sentence but still have all of these hoops to jump through, especially the job search difficulties. It is a tough road and a stigmatizing one, but perseverance can get you through. I have a friend who wished he knew how important taking the opportunities presented for work experience are. Even if they are horrible jobs, it shows employers that you're really trying to be rehabilitated and take genuine interest in staying in employment. He never bothered with any jobs he was asked to do and is finding it hard to get work. If they are being released on probation or parole, I would say the biggest advice would be to listen to your PO. Show up when they ask you to. You would be amazed what a PO can do if you just report as directed. Stay clean and sober. If you do mess up, just be honest about it. Don't commit any new crimes. If you can do those 3 things, you will finish probation or parole just fine. Finally, remember the PO is not trying to send you back to prison or jail. They do want to help. Source: State Felony Probation and Parole Officer. I have often wondered why, after you do your time, say for crimes in which no one was intentionally killed or harmed, is it not wiped from the record? Once you pay your debt, it should be considered paid in full. Am I alone in that thought? I spent 2 years incarcerated, 18 to 20. I was released to serve 2 years on house arrest. While I was in, I saw so many people getting out then coming right back in. The reoffending rate for my age group was downright scary. These guys were saying all the same things I was, not ever coming back, etc etc. Then I'd see them back in the yard a few months later. Immediately upon my release, I started support groups for substance abuse. I volunteered to do 3 months in a halfway house, along with my house arrest. The first year I was out, I went to more than 365 support group meetings. I just didn't want to go back. I applied probably 20 places the first 3 days I was out, and by the 4th day I had a job making $10 an hour, on top of the world. Roughly a year later I started an associate CS program and subsequently finished 2 years later. Kind of unrelated, don't use my stupid associates for anything. I stuck with the company I started with and now make roughly $48K. Still on top of the world. Married my fiance while still on house arrest. We now have a 2 and 4 year old. They are my awesome best little friends. Attend marriage counseling every 2 weeks or so. We want the best marriage for us and our kids we can possibly have. We're both broken people that need a third party sometimes. I have been clean for 7ish years now. I have an amazing family, amazing job, home and wife. These are all things that I never thought possible while incarcerated at 18. TLDR. Put in the time, effort, swallow your pride and get help. Prison can be a blessing for you and your loved ones. Wow, hits Friendibo, that's amazing. Congrats on turning yourself around. That no company over 30 people will even consider hiring you would have saved me a lot of time. If you're a felon, you've got to go blue collar, small business, or have someone on the inside vouch for you. No way you will get a job any other way. This started as an answer to someone's glib comment. Decided I should direct it at the OP instead. If you are a felon who has a work history in a career where your crime isn't a concern, you're going to have an easier time. As soon as you are able, which will be after parole probation, file to get your record sealed and the conviction expunged. You can also try to get it reduced to a misdemeanor, but I don't know the success rate there. The end result of the expunged conviction is that you can legally check the no box on the "have you been convicted" question, and the conviction doesn't show up in a civilian background check, at least in California. In the meantime, you're going to have some uncomfortable conversations, often with people who will judge you. You're a felon. You're probably already used to people judging you. Stay used to it, it's going to be there your whole life. Obvious advice: don't frick up on parole probation. Don't play fast and loose with anything. You are no longer a civilian, and the path back to incarceration for you is very short. You are dealing with people who are already tired of your crap, and they haven't even met you. That taking a plea to get out of jail was far worse than doing the extra time to fight it. It destroyed my life and my freedom. I wish I would have known that once you are in that system they will do everything, even break the law, to keep you in that system, and you have fight very hard to stay away from them. I ended up becoming a felon for being the victim of crime because I took a plea so I didn't have to spend a year in jail fighting it. They extradited me and put me in prison for violating probation that I was never sentenced to. Imagine that? I wish I knew how bad I was going to be discriminated against when looking for work. Living in a small town further complicates matters. Small town, small minds. Get to work as fast as possible. Employment, education, or both. For me, education saved my life. I started going to a community college the fall semester after I was released in February. I still have to go through all of the typical issues felons face, like background checks at jobs and rental properties. But the longer you have steady employment education on your resume application, the better it looks. Not a convict, but my girlfriend is a case manager. If she can get one, get one. There is so much crap that needs to be kept in order for her to get back into society, and she's probably not going to be able to do it by herself, especially if she has ever had issues with drugs. Just having a case manager there to help keep your crap in line will make a huge difference. My girlfriend works with people with mental issues, and really makes a large impact in their lives. Your friend may or may not have a mental disorder, but there are resources out there, and she should seek them. I'm not a felon, but I've done some very short time in jail, and I've served probation. My advice would be, if you can spend a little more time in jail, prison, and avoid probation, do it. Probation parole is, in many ways, more difficult than serving time, and minor violations can result in you having to serve more time anyway. And having a parole violation on your record looks a lot worse than simply having a longer sentence on an original conviction, even if the time served cumulatively is the same. More explaining to do, more evidence that you're in a pattern of poor decision making over a longer period of time, etc. I realize the serious tag is in effect here, and what I'm about to say might sound like sarcasm, but it's not. To be a felon you do not have to have ever been to prison. So your question implies too much. I'm a convicted felon and have never seen the inside of a jail cell. I have served probation though, as well as served community service hours. I'm not sure it's any more than what you'd expect it to be. Do what is expected of you and you'll really be fine. Having a felony I thought would prevent me from getting a good job or housing, etc. I guess it can, but I guess I've either been determined or lucky, as it never has except for one job opportunity ever. When I was in my teens I ran the streets with the wrong crowd. I was in and out of trouble until I was about 25 when I had a son. Did 2 years in prison for my actions, not to mention the year in company, jail and multiple 30-90 day stints, the boot camp, etc. My recommendation to anyone leaving prison is to make your future your number one priority. Everybody has to start somewhere, whether it be at McDonald's or shining shoes. Take pride in your life regardless of your past. Ultimately it is hard to land jobs and residence because of my felonies. I took a job as a cook years ago and am now managing a restaurant. Given it's not the life but it is a life, I support myself and my family and am dang proud of myself regardless of my past. Speaking as a felon who never actually went to prison, community control for 3 years, I wish I knew that any felony on my record would automatically disqualify me from almost any decent job in this country. I'm almost 30 and I'm still struggling to get out of fast food and realize my dreams and make a decent living. After reading a lot of these comments, all I can say is thank God I don't live in the States. I worked in two-way radio, wireless industry for a few years and so dealt with many corrections facilities down there. We are a Canadian company, and just through interacting with them on a professional level, it's very apparent things are run for profit. It's really quite sad. I hope we all realize the idiocy of a war on drugs really soon. Way too many young people having the rest of their lives taken away for far too little. I have spent around 3 years in. I wish I had kept away from the guys that got me into the trouble in the first place, but I ended up hanging out with them for some time afterwards anyway. Luckily, not anymore. Finally got my life under control. It's all about people, places and things. Find new friends that do the right stuff, and don't hang out with the old ones. Don't hang out in the same places you did before, and find new, healthy things to do with your time. I wish someone would have actively tried to stop me from acting crazy when I was a kid, because the whole jail prison thing sucks. I'm 24 and I've got about 6 years in and out of the legal system. I've been to jail a total of 8 times. I just got done doing 3 years. Got out Dec. 29th 2013. I'm doing good now. I still live with my parents, but I have a decent job working for the city. Just recently bought myself a new truck, and I'm actually getting my life together and living properly. It took me quite a long time to catch on and finally say frick this crap. When I was younger I didn't really care about doing time, but after a while of sitting and thinking about it day in and day out, I realized everything I've missed. My friends are all in college, having fun or starting families, and I feel like I'm light years behind them in development. That restraining orders mean crap all when the person you're being restrained against violates them repeatedly, i.e., you get into a fight with someone, the cops put the restraining order out on you. The other person then purposely violates it repeatedly, even coming to your home. You call the cops and the cops side with the victim or other person and leave you frustrated because doing anything against them would make sure you end up back in jail. That happened to me. The victim instigated, got me arrested, and then with the restraining order against me not letting me anywhere near them, they would purposely go to where I hung out or lived just to watch me flee the area because I didn't want them on the phone to the cops saying I was doing something bad. Conditional discharge almost 20 years ago and no record. The judge saw through what the victim was doing, thankfully, but it could have been a lot worse. Never, ever, ever believe the don't sign for long-term probation. Never, ever, ever trust your court-appointed attorney. I honestly don't get the whole don't hang out with your old friends stuff, but then again I didn't get in trouble for drugs. I stole my dad's van. He pressed charges and I got a goddamn felony for it. The single most important thing I wish I would have known is that it will be dang near impossible to get a job doing anything other than construction for the rest of my life. I'm cool with that though. Electricians get paid pretty sweet and the job is easy. There will come a point where the person will realize that the people they claim to love and cherish, kids, moms, dads, wife, exed, are real people. Those tears are real, and when that happens it's a scary thing. You have to look at yourself and admit to yourself that you are the cause of those tears. Took me 2 trips to the penitentiary to hit that point. I was not the victim. It was those little girls that missed 37 months of having a dad, having to explain that their dad was in prison to friends. The shame I burdened them with. That was enough. This far no further. Been 4 years sober and being the dad they deserve. Witness perception of situations are terrible and you can be convicted of a felony based off of witness statements for something you didn't do. This is true without physical evidence and common sense is on your side. I had a clean record while having 3 college degrees, 2 professional licenses, wife, child and owning my house. Be afraid because there is no justice in the justice system. It is a factory operation that is only interested in its statics and very little on its effect on people. Once you are formally charged there is almost no way to fight charges. Also no one in the justice system believes that you are innocent until convicted. Not a felon but someone certified to register voters. Many felons believe they can never vote again, but this is not true. You can regain your voting rights once you are completely done with your sentence, done with your incarceration and any subsequent parole, probation, or supervision. I registered a voter just last week who has been off paper for 18 years and thought this whole time that he couldn't vote. That made me really sad that he didn't know, but very happy to register him as a new voter in my county. This is excellent advice. I went years without voting because I thought I couldn't. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.